something, quite a natural thing when you're in the right headspace.
Is it just like a spark moment then for a lot of the time? Like you've just got to write something down, or?
Yeah, it is like that. Something takes over. I mean, actually, I was very inspired coming back from the Americana weekend there.
Yeah.
Last year, I kind of lost track of time a little bit, but I think it was last year.
Who knows anymore?
Who knows what day it is or what the hour is? But I felt very inspired personally coming back from that, and I wrote quite a lot, and Kieran was in the house here thinking that something had taken over. He was like, "Oh dear God, you really are what's happening?"
Manically jotting.
Yeah, so that's definitely listening to music, listening to other artists really helps inspiration. And that space, like I talked about, is very important for us just to have, which is certainly challenging when you have a 4-year-old living with you.
I can imagine.
So yeah, we have to, at the moment particularly, that is quite challenging. But when you're in the right headspace, definitely, you can almost feel it coming on. Some days there's nothing happening at all, and then all of a sudden you just feel that little buzz within you, and it's just something that kind of takes over, and you absolutely have to get it out. And we're lucky because we love writing together. It's something that comes quite naturally. I'm not even sure how it happens really. Because KJ plays the guitar and I don't write with an instrument. So I would sing a melody to him, or else he might write a melody and give it to me to write lyrics to.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the song.
Do you like to write autobiographically, or do you like to create a story, or is it a mix?
It is a mix, yeah, but I think that a lot of your experiences come through subconscious.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly what happens to us, because it's only after they're written you kind of look at the lyrics and you think, even if it's not about your own life, it may be of somebody close to you or something you've experienced.
Yeah,
that tends to be what happens. It's very strange, really, isn't it? Because I would be quite a shy person in many ways, and I think a lot of musicians would be similar. I kind of an introverted extrovert, if that makes sense. So yeah, to put your own personal lyrics and write about something so personal in your own life is never something I could have imagined myself doing, and then singing it in front of lots of people. I mean, that sounds terrifying to me. Why would anyone do that? But I do think it's a subconscious thing. I think it's just whatever's in your soul, whatever's in there just is going to come out. And if it's not about your experiences, it's probably about something that you've read about or heard about or have been affected by.
You mentioned writing and putting your experiences down on paper for the first time. Coming from a blues band where I assume you started off by performing a lot of covers, was it quite scary for your first time to let people hear something, where you're being more vulnerable? Yeah.
And I had come from an acting background and still do bits and pieces of acting, actually. Yeah. So that was completely different to me, because I'm used to somebody else handing me a script and telling me who my character is and taking on that character and telling the story that way. Whereas gigging, even if it is performing other people's songs, that was a very terrifying thing for me at first, because I had to be a myself, or a version of myself. So that was a very new thing for me. When I met KJ and we started gigging together, he'd been doing it for years. He lived in New York for 8 years, and his sister Eleanor McAvoy is a well-known folk singer, and he had gigged with her and toured all over the world with her, actually at the height of her fame, I guess, with A Woman's Heart, the album A Woman's Heart. So he was certainly a lot more experienced than me in that world. But the minute, of course, after the first gig, I was hooked. It's definitely something, when you connect with an audience on that level, it's a very special thing. And I feel very honoured to do that and experience that. And it's very hard to give it up once you've had that experience.
Yeah. I suppose one thing, we'll use the term country, but we can use Americana as well, is the audiences. I assume they're the same in Ireland, but especially in the UK, is they listen very intently to so that must be lovely to have an audience that will just sit and listen to the words and what you're saying and singing.
Yeah, you're so right. That's just really important, because we have done so many years of playing covers and playing hotels and bars and you name it. We've probably played there at this point. And it can be so disconcerting and heart-wrenching when the audiences are just not listening. It's a completely different thing. They're money gigs and you kind of just get on with it, but they're soul destroying ultimately. So there's nothing quite like that feeling when you're all on the same page and the audience are there to listen and to connect. It's as I say, it's very special. It's something that I really hope we get back to very soon.
Me too. So one of my favorite tracks on the current album is Fire and Gasoline. That's such a great song for me. Talk to me a bit about that one and the story behind it.
I nearly need to call KJ in for that one, because that's something that he had originally written. And when we went over then to Ray's studio, there was, he was really strict even on lyrics and things like that. We analysed everything. Nothing was just left by chance. It was like, well, what do you mean by that lyric? And what do you mean by this? And where are you coming from with this song? And so when we looked at this particular song, Ray tweaked it slightly, like literally one or two words in there, but that made the difference. And I had a bit of an input then lyrically as well with that one. So it changed slightly when we went over to Nashville. But yeah, I mean, it's it's another song about drinking. He has quite a few of those under his belt at this point. But yeah, I think that actually that happened with quite a few of the songs. Time Won't Wait for Me. When we headed over to Nashville, it was a song that was not even going to make it to the album, and Ray was adamant that he just loved the melody so much that he really felt like it needed to be there. So that ended up changing quite a bit actually, and we did a co-write. I know I'm going off the point here a little bit now.
Fine.
To a different song, but we did a co-write then with a couple of people over there, and that was a pretty amazing experience because they literally got inside of my head and brought out, I think, what I was trying to say in that particular song, and it ended up making it to the album.
Oh, perfect. So we'll go back to that. With Ray. So not only is he producing your album, he's sitting down and scrutinizing every word of every song as well before you record it.
Yeah, well, what we initially did was we all sat around in the kitchen and downstairs in the studio, and with the other musicians, with Lex and Lynn, who were on bass and drums, and of course they have the Nashville chord system, which is slightly different to the way we would work here and in the UK. And we just played the songs acoustically and went through them and made sure that they knew where they were going in terms of the chord charts. And then immediately they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew what the songs required musically. And then a little bit later, then I suppose upstairs with Ray, we just kind of, he was quite just quite adamant, I suppose, that every song, we had a lot of songs going over there, and we knew which ones were definitely going to make it, and then we had some surprises in there. So I guess he made us just look at the lyrics and make sure that we knew, even if we weren't going to change it, that we had a story behind it, and it wasn't just there because it rhymed, or there was some weight behind it. And so there was a few tweaks, not that many, but those two that I had mentioned in those two songs changed a little.
Perfect. Do you have a favourite song of yours?
Not really. It's funny. It changes every day.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, it really does. And it is such a funny thing recording an album, because it's your entire world for so long. I mean, we were building up to this for a year before we went to record it, and it's now just over a year since we recorded it. So you move on quite quickly, which is strange. Because we're not getting to gig these songs live, it's very strange, because that's the time that you kind of reacquaint yourselves with them and you start to connect with them because of an audience's reaction maybe, and just, because every night brings something new with the performance. So I kind of feel we haven't had the chance to do that, and we're writing a little bit now, and we're almost moving on. We don't want to forget about this album at all, because a lot of love and hard work went into it, but you do kind of move on a bit. You don't listen back to the songs. Certainly we don't too many times. It's lovely when you hear it on the radio, though. That's always nice. But yeah, it's strange not having gigged them live in front of them. live audience.
Do you think that's why you're moving on perhaps a little bit then? Because obviously now, albeit if we were in normal times, you would be working. Well, I know you had the C2C shows, you had some dates booked for coming up in the next couple of weeks with a bit of a tour. Do you think this one you've kind of moved on from quicker than normal?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that has had an effect maybe. But yeah, it's not. I think once you finish an album, though, you don't tend to. A lot of musicians don't tend to kind of sit around and listen to their own album over and over. In the car or at home, you kind of do move on, but they take on a completely new life when you start to gig them.
Yeah.
So you don't generally tire from them. At least, with our last album, we're still playing those songs, and I haven't tired of them yet. Anyway, because live is a different experience, and it changes every time you perform them. It has a different meaning almost. And you discover new things and new meanings in the songs that you never intentionally meant when you were writing them in the first place. Yeah. So all of that is they're all really interesting things that keep the songs alive. But I do hope that we get to, obviously we'll get to get out there eventually and gig them. And we've been playing them online a little bit. We haven't been doing too many live streams, but we did one for the launch to mark the launch, which was really nice.
Yeah. How do you feel about the live stream thing? Because a lot of people are doing it at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm kind of in two mindsets about it, really. I think it's incredible that we can connect with people from all over the world. I mean, that's amazing to me still. I still get a kick out of that. We did for our launch, there was people from Australia, Canada, New York, England. Wow. Obviously all over Ireland, and that was just incredible that you were all there sharing this experience at the exact same time, and especially in the circumstances right now, it just felt quite emotional, really.
Yeah.
But it's never going to take the place of a live gig in a great venue with physical human beings. I mean, and also the sound. You can't, no matter what equipment you have, no matter how many times you try out the speaker in front of the camera, and it's just, the sound is hugely important when it comes to delivering a gig and delivering your songs, and that makes a gig for me. There's some gigs that stand out in my mind, and generally the sound had a lot to do with that. So it doesn't replace that. It's lovely to be able to do it and have an option available to us to keep connected with people, and I'm glad that this is happening now, where technology is where we have exactly, where we have that option. But of course it never replaces that live gig. You just that magical air, you just can't really get that online.
You mentioned the importance of sound. Out of interest, how much can a venue make a show for you? Because I've got venues that I'll go to and I'm just excited just to be there, just because like the atmosphere and things. Is that something that you can relate to?
Yeah, big time. I mean, the sound engineer is just so important. is the third band member for us. He or she is extremely important. And the equipment and all of that, and the venue. Yeah, that would be a big factor in us booking certain gigs, would be the sound.
Yeah.
And I think a sound engineer just makes you sound way better than what you really are. I've often thought, oh my God, what? I don't sound like that. That's when everything is working, all the elements are there. It's just, it can be a magical experience. And the sound, to me, is hugely important.
Yeah. So apart from the live streams, have you taken any positivity out of this sort of quarantine situation in terms of creativity apart from that?
Any positives? I mean, obviously there's plenty of time for reflection. Of course you prioritize completely when everything is taken away from you and you're literally left with just yourself and your close family. Of course, I think I've always felt very grateful though for what I have. But this has made me feel a bit more maybe grateful and just raring to go when this is all over. And even last night we were, having a few drinks late at night and just having a chat and just saying God, I really miss this. So many